Welcome to the show, Sister Veritas and Sister Anne.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much.
Well, it's exciting to have you on for two reasons, because we have two really nice things to talk to you about. One that just happened and one that's coming up. So why don't we start with the one that just happened, which is the Seek conference, which took place just last week, right? A week ago.
Yeah.
This past weekend. So we're recording during the week, and this took place this past weekend. I was telling you, sisters, just before we hit record, that I was very disappointed because my son, who's a sophomore in college, who's very involved in his Newman Center at school, and he has a wonderful relationship with the Focus missionaries there, and he's very close to them. And he really wanted to go to the Seek conference this year and wasn't able to go because we had an important family wedding, and those things are important too. But I was very disappointed that he wasn't there. So tell us, please, about the amazing Seek conference, which I have heard has grown and has fabulous attendance.
Yeah, it really is amazing. That's the word for it. It's just, I mean, it was like 25,000 people coming converging on St. Louis, and really to experience and to praise Jesus and the love of Jesus and be together, and crazy powerful graces. You know, it's a whole week of basically amazing speakers, Eucharistic adoration, the Holy Mass, all these talks, and people literally just becoming on fire for the faith. The energy there is just incredible. And we were just privy to hear about so many amazing graces of conversions, of freedom from sin, of experiencing God's love in a new way. Really powerful things.
So for listeners who don't know about Seek, give us the background, please, of what is the Seek conference, and who is it who organizes it, and who is it that comes?
Yeah, so the focus is really the one behind Seek, so Fellowship of Catholic University Students. And gosh, I can't remember the year that it began, but
25 years ago.
About 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So and
we love Focus here on Conversations with Conversations with Consequences. We've had Curtis Martin, who's the originator and the CEO, on, and also just recently we had a Focus missionary from my son's college, who is amazing. His name is Javi, and he gave the most beautiful testimony about being a Focus missionary and his wonderful work at college. But go ahead, sister. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's great. I love it. Yeah. So Focus really, it's kind of the dream of their heart. Yeah. To be able to share the gospel with as many as possible and to create missionary disciples. And so it's really an opportunity for college students, and those not in college to encounter Christ. And so they started these conferences years ago of a gathering. And in some ways it feels like a mini World Youth Day. It gives people an opportunity to be in contact with the Church Universal. And it's just, it's a beautiful experience of talks throughout the week, and prayer time and Mass and the sacraments, and just really, a convergence, as you were saying, sister, of
very young, right? It's a very young crowd.
Yeah, 18-year-olds, mostly 18, 19, 20 people in college. And then you do have some that are after college, but there's booths set up of all kinds of Catholic ministries in the States and beyond. So it's really, it's a beautiful experience.
Does that give you, seeing that kind of congregation of youth, does that give you a lot of hope for the future? Because I think lately, I don't know about you sisters, I mean, the Sisters of Life are just, I know that you radiate hope and faith, and so you must have a lot more confidence than regular people like us who are sometimes bowed down, by the way that the world seems a dark place. And certain, things that have happened recently have made me a little sad, more sad than general, about the state of the world. Things that are happening in Israel, for instance, and the atrocities, that were committed, that one doesn't like to think are possible for human beings, right, to commit against each other. But anyway, what does that feel like when you see a group of young people so beautifully committed to our Lord and to the ideals that save?
Yeah. Well, it's so powerful. I mean, really, there's so much hope, so much real grace, and you realize, like, Jesus is alive and he is working. Like, he has not left us. He is here with us. And the miracles that happen in the Gospels, they're still happening today. That wasn't a story a long time ago. It's a continuation of what has happened is still happening. He is alive, and he's real, and he's he's moving college students. He's moving their hearts. He's working miracles in their lives, you know. And I remember one of the keynote speakers was saying that they're not the future of the church; they're the present of the church.
Present, yeah.
And it was such a powerful thing to hear, and it's so true. Yeah.
You know, there's something about young people that we lose. We know when as we get older that we lose that sense of urgency and that sense that feeling that we can go out and conquer and change things, and that enthusiasm for that, right? Like that's really belongs to youth. And how wonderful that all that youthful possibility and potential is for these young people is wrapped around their faith and around Jesus, around our Lord.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredibly inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what kind of you does Focus and Seek is it's a little factory of vocations, I'm sure, right? Vocations to all the beautiful paths of Christian. Do you find that?
I was so moved, actually. Yeah, it's very beautiful. I mean, I was very moved by just, the witness of those in a committed vocation. You know, one of the mornings, you know, Relevant Radio was hosting the rosary every morning in the main stadium. And one morning, one of the MCs had her little baby in her arms while she was praying the rosary. So even that, just the witness of a mother who's faithfully living her vocation, and it's chock full of families and religious. And so it really just gives, I think, young people a sense of the value of love and giving your life for something, and really an encounter with the vocations that are offered to them by the Lord. So definitely, I think a lot of grace there of people being able to say yes and open their hearts to God's will in new ways.
For our listeners who don't know much about Focus or Seek, I'm sure they can Google it and go online and on their websites, but they can look forward to another conference next year. Is it always held in St. Louis?
It's not. So they change it up every few. So next year is actually going to be Salt Lake City, which is great. But for those who didn't go, you can actually go. They have a great new website called seekreplay.com, where you can actually watch all of the big keynotes and big breakouts from this year's Seek. So you can go on there and see those for free. So seekreplay.com, which is awesome.
So you were there. Was there some really speaker that really moved you or got a wonderful response? I mean, I'm sure they were all fabulous, but was there one that you remember that really gave you enthusiasm?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, there's a great lineup of speakers. I mean, Monsignor James Shea was amazing. Father Mike Schmitz, Father John Israti. We had one of our sisters, Sister Mary Grace, speak. She did awesome. So just really inspiring talks. So I encourage you to look
material. Lots of material there. Tell us again the website.
Seekreplay.com.
Okay, that's SEEK. Seekreplay.com. Okay, so that was last week, and that was obviously an amazing success. But coming up in the next couple of weeks, we have the March for Life, right? Actually, in less than a week now, by the time the show airs. So January 19th is the March for Life, and before so it starts at noon, as I well know, as I've been there many times. The morning of, we have something called Life Fest, or you have something called Life Fest. So tell us about Life Fest, what you're expecting to do, and who you're expecting to be there.
So Life Fest is a morning rally held on the morning of the March for Life, January 19th. And we're partnering with the Sisters of Life and the Knights of Columbus are partnering to put it on. And it's happening at the DC Armory, which is a 10,000 seat stadium. And it's basically like this awesome morning rally of dynamic speakers and testimonies, music by Sarah Kroger and Damascus Worship. We have Holy Mass as part of it, celebrated by Archbishop Laurie from Baltimore, and Cardinal Sean O'Malley is actually the homilist. And then we have some Monsignor James Shea who was just spoke at Seek, did it so amazingly. He's going to speak again with a Eucharistic time of Eucharistic adoration with powerful music. So it's really just an invitation to people to come and actually just be immersed in the celebration of life, in a culture of life, and to actually have their hearts formed in a new language of life and love, especially after this post-Roe culture, and how to lean more into understanding the heart of a woman who's pregnant, women who have suffered after abortion, to lean more into living this integrated life that is pro-life and what that means. And yeah, so it's really just an amazing celebration of life together. So
That's
we encourage.
that seems like a very beautiful lead up to the march, which the march has a very strong political undercurrent, right? Or main current, because obviously there's people, the speakers, there's Congress people that come, and there's obviously the march ever since it started decades ago was very focused on changing the laws, right, around abortion, which under Roe v. Wade were so egregiously unjust, right, against the unborn child and against women and mothers and fathers and families. Of course, it's not just the child that suffers. So how wonderful. So there is that strong political part to it, but how wonderful that all these people, young people, mostly young people, I imagine, at the Life Fest, then go from, are prepared really beautifully spiritually, right, for the march itself. So they don't miss that. So they don't miss like the big picture, as you say, of of what it is to be pro-life. Like what does a culture of life look like? Which I think for a lot of young people must be hard to imagine and hard to even contemplate as a possibility, right? Because they have grown up, as so many of us have. Even I was born a little before Roe v. Wade, I guess, but we don't know what a culture of life would look like, right?
Well, I think it begins with our hearts first, like that every human heart is longing to know that they're wanted and they're good, and that God has a beautiful plan for them, and that he chose them from all eternity, and at every moment he's holding them in existence and breathing life into them and loving them. And when we receive the good news of the gift of our own life, that it's not what we do or produce that gives value to our life, but simply that we are, because we are loved and that we exist, that's enough. When we receive that gift, then it allows us to go forward and to really create a culture of life. So as Sisters of Life, we so long that every human heart knows this truth, and Life Fest is one opportunity to really hold that truth out and bestow it upon others, please God, so that this culture of life can begin one heart at a time.
And it has to do with letting go of the materialism that's sort of built into us, right? Materialism in the sense of being too much in tune with the material world and not enough with our supernatural realities, which are so much more real than the things that we can feel with our fingers, right? Or hear with our ears. The supernatural realities, the fact that we are, like you say, creatures that are breathed into existence and loved into being. They're sustained by this love, and that every person we meet is that radiant creature loved by God. How beautiful that your lives as Sisters of Life are dedicated and are shaped around that tremendous reality. What is it like to be a Sister of Life?
I love it. It's so wonderful.
I've seen many Sisters of Life. I've talked to many of you, and I've never seen one without a smile on her face. So it must be a tremendously gratifying life.
Yeah. It was such a gift. I mean, really just such a gift. And I think each of us are just so moved by, this profound love of Jesus for every human heart, for my heart, and that he desires every human person. Like, you are totally irreplaceable in God's heart or in the world. No one can replace you. Like, it's so, and just to be so moved by that, and to be able to live, in that is so powerful. And actually just to look at every person that we see is just they are so important to the heart of God. And as you're saying, every person, you are worth so much more than you can do or produce or achieve, right? That love alone defines the human person. And so just the tremendous gift of living that reality and giving our lives for that truth, and living in communion with each other and with our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. It's, and it's such a gift and a joy. And yes, everybody has sufferings. Like every vocation, there's always laundry, but it's I like
that. I haven't heard that phrase.
Yeah. But it's such a joy and a privilege and a gift. So such a.
Could I ask each of you to give us a little short recount of your vocation story? Very short, whatever you'd like to share.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I grew up Catholic, but kind of had a reversion in college in my faith, and began just asking question of vocation and God's will for my life, and always wanted to get married and have a family, watched my sisters fall in love and have children, and dreamt that for my life. But as I grew in my prayer, just, felt this invitation from the Lord that my heart would be his alone. And I remember being at a wedding and And after looking up at this new, husband and wife, just felt the Lord saying, this kind of spousal love, I'm asking this of you and me, that we would live this together, that my heart would be totally his. So I know for me that, yeah, that was really how the Lord drew my heart, was through that spousal invitation, which is really what he holds out to every consecrated heart, and found the grace my senior year in college when I met the sisters to say yes, and just made my final vows in August. And it's been such a joy, ever since.
Oh my, what a beautiful story.
Mhm.
How lovely to see the romance in it, right? I mean, a lot of people don't think of it as romantic, and yet all the best feelings of our hearts are romantic, right? They're about union and purity, really, right? Romance is all about purity and union and ultimate and complete self-gift. I mean,
Mhm.
that's how I think about romance.
Mhm.
Self-gift. And you, Sister Veritas?
Yeah, I felt called in like sixth grade, and I was like, no way, God, never. So I kind of pushed away
Sixth
the
grade. Yeah, you were a
yeah,
baby.
but just a baby. So I pushed away the call for like 10 years. But over that time, I experienced a profound kind of conversion of heart and mind when my parents experienced a conversion, deeper conversion to the faith, and I started reading and really falling in love with the truths of the Catholic Church, and that the truth is a person, and his name is Jesus. So intellectual conversion, and then a conversion of the heart when my mom became unexpectedly pregnant, and I was 14, and my little sister totally changed my life, rocked my world, and just my heart like exploded with love in a way it didn't know it could. And so went into college, and then finally, after really the call kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger to be totally his, and I kept fighting and fighting. And then I finally, midway through college, really surrendered to him and just had this peace and this joy I had never known before, and felt more myself in that moment of surrender than I ever felt before. And anyway, found out about the Sisters of Life through a friend who went to World Youth Day and met them there. And yeah, really discerned the Lord calling me. So I entered after I finished my degree in college. But just he is so faithful. He is so good. He knows what's going to make us the most happy, and what our hearts are made for. So just so grateful to him for pursuing my heart, even when I
You
resisted.
said something very interesting. You said you felt more yourself than you ever had before.
Mhm.
What does that mean exactly? How more yourself? What is it about your individuality that your vocation highlights or makes possible?
It's a very deep question.
Yeah, that's big. I've been thinking a lot about that. I've been thinking about how relationship with God makes us
Mhm.
ourselves and more individual and more distinct. Because I think a lot of people who don't have the faith, who don't have lives of faith and contemplation, they think that we become that by giving ourselves over to God, we become just like we become like an interchangeable piece, right? And so I'm looking at you two on Zoom, and maybe some of our listeners are going to watch on YouTube, and they're going to see two women dressed alike, in identical habits with the identical crucifixes on chains. And the only difference between you is your glasses, Sister Veritas. And
Yes, I need
what we can see, and obviously your lives must be very similar. You live in community, for instance, and you follow the same paths during the day, and you have the same rhythms of your plan of life. But you're more individual. I feel like you're more individual. You're more yourselves, and you said that. So, what do you think, Sister Veritas?
Yeah, I could use lots of few thoughts too, but yeah, just like every human person is so unique, like so unique, unrepeatable, made in God's image. Like you reflect the glory of God in a way that no one else can, and it is impossible to. So, yeah, and I think John Paul II talks about we're each incommunicable, which means you can't be me, I can't be you, like I can only be myself. And you're right, speaking of the mystery of like, actually, the more I surrender to him, the more I'm in union with him. He doesn't take away my uniqueness or individuality. He enhances it. He enhances the gift and the beauty that is me, that he's made in his image, unique and unrepeatable. And so I think that's the wonderful gift of holiness. It's like I don't uh, my uniqueness doesn't disappear. It actually is enhanced. And you can see this in the lives of the saints, right? Like the saints are so different from
Yeah.
each other, right? You have it's Pope John the 23rd, who, all he could do for fasting was, instead of putting, 5 teaspoons of sugar in his tea, he put 2, and he was a large man, and then you have like some saints, who just lived on the Eucharist, right? Or you have saints who are funny and saints who are
Saints
serious.
that go into battle, or saints that are tremendously
Right,
pacifists, right? They couldn't kill a fly, and you have Joans of Arc.
right. Yeah. It's wonderful. And actually, it's just the gift of, our St. Francis de Sales said, and our founder would often quote this, but being a saint is being yourself. And actually to become more and more who you are as God has made you to be. And your committed vocation actually flourishes that possibility. Committed love actually allows you to have the freedom to love with the uniqueness of your heart in a powerful way, And so I think, yeah, kind of finding our vocations, it's been this like trajectory of just the Lord revealing more and more to you who you are, as he reveals more and more to you who he is. So
Because I suppose the more you love, the more you develop, right? So you become more. So there's more to know, right? The more you love God, the more you are. That there's more of you, right? There's deeper and deeper parts of you that you can then live more deeply in and know yourself better.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, I'd like to think of the analogy of filling a balloon, when John the Baptist said, he must increase, I must decrease. But it's almost like when you blow up a balloon, right? There's more and more air, like that was like the life of God. And you're stretched more, but you actually become more who you are, because you're meant to be filled. You're meant to be, like a balloon. It's a very rough analogy, limping analogy, but there's a truth.
I like it.
Yeah.
What about, okay, but here's a question, and we're getting now deep into philosophy, but there is in the modern culture, there's a very strong, like almost enforced, horribly enforced idea of individuality, which is completely different from what we're talking about here, right? Like, be yourself at all costs. Do what you want to do today. Don't let that kind of just that putting the self in the center of everything, and having to do what yourself is calling you to do, regardless. How is that different? How is that modern culture's idea of individuality different from what we've been talking about?
Well, it makes me think of, I'm sitting here with Sister Veritas, Sister Truth. So, but I'm thinking of the scripture passage where it says, the truth will set you free. And really, I think what Sister's speaking of in this beauty of flourishing and stepping into who you are is allowing the truth of who God is and who we are to fill the entirety of our being. And truth is a person. So stepping into the life of Jesus and who Jesus is, that actually allows us to become truly free and truly uniquely who we are. But we can't live it apart from Jesus and the truth of what he holds out to us, of what it means to be a human person and what it means to love and where we come from and where we're going. So really, yeah, freedom is connected to Jesus, and really only living in accord with him are we truly ourselves. And I think that's the difference in the culture is trying to find freedom apart from Jesus and trying to find who you are apart from him. And really it's only in him that will grow into the gift that we are.
Mm-hmm. So developing our individuality, but our individuality wrapped around the truth, right? Who is Jesus? And that allows us to flourish and truly be ourselves in a way that leads us up, right? That leads us to God, and not just into a circle of self-regard and conceit.
Yeah, because John Paul II talks about how like Christ reveals man to himself, and that by making a gift of ourselves, that's how we find ourselves, and it actually makes me think of just going back to Life Fest. Like, we're part of Life Fest, we're having the relics of the Ulma family present at Life Fest, and these are people who they exemplified what it means.
Are they the Catholic Poles who gave their lives to guard their Jewish?
Yes, yeah. So
they hid beautiful story.
Jewish families during World War II, and then they were caught, and the whole family was killed, including the unborn baby. And it's like, wow, what a witness, of exactly what you're talking about, of giving yourselves in love and actually becoming holy, becoming saints, becoming truly who you are. And that this little unborn baby, this little 1-year-old, this little 5-year-old, like, they're all now going to be blessed. They're all blessed, and so I think just the tangible example of that, and the gift of being able to venerate the relics at Life Fest, which is exciting. So even to pray for that.
What a wonderful thing to make central at Life Fest in these days, of anti-Semitism and the kind of horrors that we thought were contained in history, but they're very present now. And young people are the ones who can listen very clearly to their consciences, right? I feel like God can speak very clearly to them, and they are the ones that can be the vanguard, right, of all good things in dark times. I can't think of anything better than Life Fest. By the March for Life and venerating these relics and then the Eucharistic adoration. Can people follow along? Is there like a link that they can follow along live from home if they can't make it? Most people can't make it, obviously.
Yeah, so if you go to the website lifefestrally.com, so you can actually register there. So we encourage you to register now. We want to fill that stadium, so please be such a gift to have you. But they'll be live streamed as well. So you can watch out that link, lifefestrally.com, and on the day of will be the live streaming also on that website. So they can watch from home as well.
Okay, so if you're in the DC area, or you can get there on January 19th, it starts at 6 a.m. At the day of the march. And tell me again
Yes.
the stadium. You said the Armory.
The DC Armory. Yep. So the doors open at 6 o'clock, and just because it's such a big stadium, so many people, so doors open at 6 o'clock, and then Damascus Worship, which is kind of like a new cutting edge Catholic worship team, I guess how you describe them. They'll start to play at 6. Then 7:30 is kind of like the welcome and the testimonies and music, and then we'll have Eucharistic adoration with music by Sarah Kroger at 8:45, and then 9:30 Holy Mass. And then there's some testimonies all sprinkled throughout, which are going to be so powerful. So yeah, we're really, really excited.
Okay, well, I hope that you fill the stadium and that it's a fabulous success. I can't imagine it not being a success. My daughter was there last year.
Oh, good.
I wasn't able to go because I was working there at the march with the March for Life itself. But last year, she was 16 then, and she just loved Life Fest. So send your young people, bring them, go. It's a wonderful experience and an opportunity to unite themselves with Christ and with all things life before the March for Life. So thank you so very much, sisters, for joining me today on Conversations. It was a great pleasure and an honor.
Thank you so much. A gift to be with you, really.
Yeah.
Thank you.